So this episode's going to be the introduction to New Roots. We're going to talk about the inner work, outer work, and the theme of the podcast, and where we want to go and where it can evolve to. We don't actually know where it's going to evolve to, but yeah, this is fun, right?
Yeah, just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
Started out with some grand purpose, but now I think it's clear that it doesn't need some grand purpose. We just do it because it's a nice thing to do. We both enjoy talking about these sorts of things.
Yes.
And if we can find other people who enjoy talking about these sorts of things, then fantastic. There's the community, there's the joy, there's the reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah. And also hear about people's interests as well and what they like to talk about. And that might fit quite nicely in what we like to talk about.
For sure.
Yeah, like I spoke to my sister yesterday, and she's very much interested in coming on and talking about water. She's quite passionate about water and what she has done in aid for others. So I think that's a good direction to go in.
Absolutely.
Service to others, I think, is a great message. I don't think we have a lot of it, but we could do with a little bit more, I reckon.
It's never enough.
It's never enough, no. We're never happy. That's the thing. We are never happy. We always want something more, unless we get to that point where we're like, okay, I've got it. Instead of setting another goal, I've got it, kind of thing. But that's human nature, I think. We always want that little bit more.
Of course, it would be really boring if we got what we wanted. And then that was it.
And too easy.
Sit around doing nothing.
Yeah.
No, we need to always improve things, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
Nor is it a good thing. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a thing, and it's okay. So long as you enjoy it and you're compassionate and you love it, it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. So, are we doing an intro, or are we just going to go into talking?
I thought we'd already started, to be honest.
Yeah, I just wanted to double check. We have kind of already started.
Yeah, so hello everyone who's listening.
Yeah.
This is the New Roots podcast.
And we want to talk about how we can make the world a better place and what problems we already see in the world where we can all come together and perhaps resolve it. You know, when we do these interviews with people, I'm really interested to see if there's a common theme that people have to say. I've already interviewed my granddad, and I'm not sure if I'm going to upload it online or not. And it's really interesting to hear a 92-year-old's perspective on things. One of the questions I asked him is what the problems he sees in the world, and he said the discord. Discord is the main problem he sees in the world. The disagreement we have with one another, that we can't come to some sort of final way forward where we can make things better. But where are we coming from in order to get to answering this? Like, are we coming from the mind or are we coming from the heart? We all want the world to be better. We all want to be loved and looked after. If we come from that place, perhaps there wouldn't be so much discord in the world. I don't know about you, Joe.
I have a radical proposal that the world is already mended.
Okay. Let's stop right now.
And that we can sort of self-select what we see. Now, I haven't got this philosophy down yet.
Who has, right?
But there are some really positive changes taking place. There is this fantastically exciting wave of people coming together online and going, oh, I see you, brother. I see you, sister. You know, you and I have been talking about this for a while, and the dream was to get to a place where we could walk down the street and just see brothers and sisters. What I realize is that's already happening online. There are millions of people that are connecting up and going, we've had enough of the old way, let's try something new. So it's happening right now. So it's not that we are setting out with this podcast to change the world. The world's already changed. We're just hopping on the wave on our surfboard and riding it into shore. Or another metaphor would be we're unanchoring ourselves from the riverbed and flowing downstream back to the sea, back to source, back to that peace that we're all desperately seeking, not realizing that the reason why we're not experiencing it is because we've anchored ourselves in the flow of life. Or we've convinced ourselves that we need to be paddling upstream, which is something I've done a lot of.
Instead of going with the flow.
Exactly. And so, yeah, the flow, it's happening, it's all good, and it will be really nice to connect with a load of people and see where they're at with their relationship with this turning of the tide. So many mixed metaphors there, sorry. But that's not to say that there aren't problems to address. We just aren't setting ourselves in opposition to them.
Exactly.
So, for example, deforestation, if we make it our mission to end all deforestation, we'll be here for our entire life, making a very small dent in the problem. So rather than doing that, let's focus on all of the positives, identify that there are less than ideal things out in the world. It's a balance between naively sticking our heads in the sand and trying to stop a tsunami with just our bodies.
Yeah, it's important to highlight the issues but not dwell on them. That's how information flows. It's got out there, we know about it, and think of the positive and how we can move forward. And this podcast is bringing information to light and a way where we can connect with one another. One of the things that I'm quite passionate about is the oceans. The ocean's full of plastic, microplastics, netting, overfishing. I would be happy to see it not taking place at all. But of course, I can't say we should then do this. It's not a matter of what I think should be done. It's a matter of what we can all come together and think of the positive changes that can be done. But the oceans do really need to be looked at, and problems we have in the world, everyone's got their own problem. We kind of choose the problems that affect us the most. But I think we all can agree that war is a problem. Is it natural for us to go to war? Not quite sure.
It might have been once upon a time.
Yeah, and a way where we could resolve things. But
maybe we've evolved past that now?
Exactly, yeah. It's these old trends, these old things that are just still going to this day that perhaps we've evolved out of. We still have racism, which doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. I really don't understand that. We've got 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 ears, and yet we focus on the differences that we have with one another. Why don't we focus on the similarities? Makes no sense to me. And it would be interesting to see what people say moving forwards, and then perhaps we can focus on that and see where it leads.
Absolutely, yeah. Ride that wave of positivity and see where it leads. It's going to be a good place, whatever it is, wherever it is, it'll be good. It already is. And obviously there's a lot of people hurting out in the world. That's not to say, certainly not dismissing or disregarding all of those experiences. But having gone on, quote, journeys ourselves with suffering, I think we're both quite confident, as are many people that we talk to, quite confident that there is a way out of suffering. And certainly not prescribing anything or giving advice or anything like that, other than just perhaps sharing our own perspectives. If it resonates with someone and they go, oh, I never thought of it that way, then great. Then they can examine that.
Yes. And perhaps we are able to provide tools for people which they may or may not be able to use. Suffering comes in all forms, and suffering can be of the mind. So we could really sabotage our own self with our thoughts. We get thoughts that just come in, and if it's a negative thought, we can latch onto it, and that can really lead us down a really deep, dark pit. And it all starts with a thought. And what I've realized is that if you're able to observe the thought come in, see if it's negative, and quickly brush it away, or just observe it, realize that they're coming in, don't attach to the thought, and then don't act on the negative thought.
Give it love.
Give it love, and then send it away. And it can be these repetitive habits. The body is used to what feeling that we get from these thoughts. It's thought, then feeling. And it can be quite a challenge, and still is a challenge, to not let things affect you in a negative way. But this is a journey, this is the process. There will always be improvement. There'll always be something to learn. There'll always be something to take forward. And suffering, it comes in many, many forms. People suffer because they feel like they don't have enough. It's like poverty. If you think you're poor, you will feel poor, and then you'll probably be in a really bad mindset. But if you feel like you have abundance, if you feel like you have everything, and you still don't have much, perhaps, to your name, then that can still be quite good.
The secret of happiness, you see, is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less.
Exactly. It's not saying like aim to have nothing and you'll be happy, because that can be.
But if you can be happy with nothing, then you're onto a winner, guys.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Stop comparing yourself to other people and looking for sources of happiness from the outer world. Find it in the inner world.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like when you see kids that have been brought up in probably a wealthy household, and they have all the gadgets, all the latest devices, everything available to them. They're happy. But you get a child that is playing with sticks and rocks and, running around. They're also happy. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the more stuff that you accumulate means happiness. You can be really happy with just having your needs met and having people that are around you that will be there for you. Connection is so important, to have connection with one another. And that we touched on it earlier, but connections, I feel, is the way where we are going to grow together and bring about proper change. If we can just connect with one another, see the similarities that we have with one another, that will bring positive change.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Do we want to talk a little bit about inner and outer work and what we mean by that?
Yeah, let's do that.
What's your understanding of inner and outer work?
Inner work is introspection, looking at where you're at emotionally, meditation, being with yourself, and being comfortable within your own company. Not always having the radio on, having something to occupy you. It's going within yourself and mastering your thoughts. All these things are inner work. One thing I've worked on quite a lot of is ego. I've focused on ego for a lot of my life. I don't lead with my ego when, say, in a response to something. We all have ego, but I use ego as a tool and something I can use when needed, and not focus on the appearance of something. Like, appearance is everything. Appearance is not everything. It's how you feel inside. I don't know where you want to go with that, with inner work, Joe.
I think you summed up inner work quite nicely. It's one of those subjects that unfolds and unpacks itself the further you go with it, the more time you spend with it. So I think that's a pretty good starting definition, and I'm sure it's something that we'll circle back to time and again.
Yes.
I know it's a new concept to me, relatively new. I only really uncovered it in the last year or so, and it sort of goes hand in hand with alchemy, which I use kind of as a story to help visualize abstract intellectual and emotional concepts, really simply summarized as turning the leaden weight of fear into the golden light of love.
Nice.
Alchemy, as most of us understand it, is turning base metal into gold. But if you read it as a story, as a metaphor for one's own journey, as an alchemist, I am taking all of the things in me that I am afraid of and not dispelling them, not discarding them, not going, hey, demon within, you are now exorcised and you are now cast out and dead and not wanted. No, it's, hi, demon, sorry for being so afraid of you for so long. I see you. I see your purpose. I see your reason. Let's turn you into gold, the gold that you really are. I'm not getting rid of you. I'm just transmuting you. And so it's fear into love all the time. I'm quite a visual person, I think. I have quite strong visual images when I'm thinking about things. And particularly in meditation, even without psychedelics, I have quite strong and sometimes very frightening hallucinations. I'm not sure that it quite qualifies as hallucinations, but visualizations. And historically, they've been quite upsetting. Whereas now, when they come in, I'm like, I know you. I can have compassion for you. I know what you are, even though I don't know specifically like what you're rooted in. For example, like a demonic creature comes stumbling out of the darkness in a meditation, and there is a feeling of, an initial feeling of fear. It's like a spider that crawls towards you, scuttles towards you, and you're like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But then you realize, there's nothing you can do. You can't harm me. But it's just noticing that impulse and then letting it go. So that's what I think of as inner work a lot of the time is noticing that. And that's a small fragment of it. And like I say, I'm sure we'll circle back again and again to inner work because it is central.
Yes.
But it's not exclusive, because there's also outer work, right? We live in a realm of duality, and so for everything that's inside, there's also an outside. And so that's where things like deforestation, the oceans, and all of these things come in. So what's your view and understanding of outer work?
So outer work, in a positive sense, can be helping others, supporting others, doing positive changes in the world, looking after the environment.
Does it also apply to how we interact with other people?
I think so. It's everything we do that we don't do on our own.
But how we show up in the world is rooted in how we operate within. And if it's an unexamined, unconscious process within, we're likely going to be showing up in an unexamined and unconscious way out in the world. So when we get annoyed at people, are we getting annoyed at them, or are we getting annoyed at ourselves and then projecting that out and then circulating that frustration around and around?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think if we're completely comfortable with any information that comes our way, even if it goes against our belief system, then we wouldn't need to get frustrated, and then that wouldn't then have an impact on others. And to go back to the demon, because you mentioned the demon earlier, a lot of us have had dreams where we've had something chasing us, right? Whether it's a wolf, whether it's a pig, whether it's a dog, and we are always running away. And it's been a long time since I had a dream like that, but I remember just turning around in my dream and being like, okay, what you gonna do? And like, it's literally the about turn and facing the fear, and then And then you realize it's just an illusion. Like nothing's happened. I woke up. I think I just woke up. And it gives you such a sense of empowerment. The fear really does hold us back in life. If we go through life with complete love and without fear, it's not like we're going to get nowhere. We're going to go places. We're going to interact with people. We're going to find people on our level. Fear really does hold us back. Fear, I think, has got us to where the world is right now. Like I mentioned earlier, we have all these problems in the world. I was going to mention religion. I'm not going to mention religion because that...
Yeah, that's a big subject and we can come back to that another time. Because I'm not against it.
No.
I'm just against how it shows up in the world sometimes.
Yeah, religion has really helped people that have been in dark places, or it probably has had more of a place in history. I'm unsure if it has a place now. Religion is surrounded with God, and I don't know, I feel like I've found God not through religion, but through myself almost. And it's oneness, it's complete awareness, and that is what I think we are at our core. I think we are awareness, consciousness, the soul, the spirit, so many names for it, and yet we come through and pick up these personalities. We pick up the mask that is Jay and Joe, and we run with it. But we are not actually Jay and Joe. We are spiritual beings having this human experience.
Careful, you sound like a fundamentalist.
I've got to be careful.
No, I'm joking.
We're not secretly starting a religion here. This is just our expression, and everyone is entitled to expression, right? We're not hurting anyone. As long as you're not hurting anyone, it's freedom of speech. And we've had in the UK the online safety bill that has been passed, and there was a lot of opposition against it because of the censorship that it involves. With censorship, there is restriction of freedom of speech, and that's something we are definitely against. And guests that come on our show won't experience censorship. There'd be editing, of course, but there will not be any censorship. Everyone has a right to say whatever they want to say, as long as it's not inciting a revolution or uproar or hurting anyone.
But if it is, it won't be censored. It will just be It will just be spoken back to. If people do wish to speak about hateful things like that, they won't be censored.
Yes, but challenged, perhaps, if it was that.
I wouldn't say challenge, because then that creates opposition. It's a difficult thing to navigate, and that's why I think by and large society has gone, it's too difficult of a problem, so let's just create a blanket piece of legislation to stop this kind of talk. Whereas actually I think we don't stop bad speech by just censoring people. We stop bad speech by challenging those ideas. And who's to say what's bad and what's good? And actually that kind of circles us back to something I wanted to talk about when you were talking about fear. I think we often equate fear with darkness, or rather we equate darkness with fear. And the dark things in the world aren't to be crushed out of existence. They need to be loved. So all of that hate speech and all of that racism and bigotry and sexism, where is that coming from? Is it coming from a place of fear, an unexamined fear? Possibly. And I think it's worth separating the two. Because once you separate the two, you can then love that darkness, and then that darkness goes away. In so much as it doesn't go away because it's been vanquished, it doesn't go away because it's been beaten, it goes away simply because it no longer needs to be, because it's loved.
And has no power over you.
Again, power creates opposition. The idea of power, we need power against something. No, it's all just one. It's all just love. And once we fully integrate the darkness that we see outside in the world, because the reason why we're seeing it is because that's us. we all contain that evil. And I know you and I have disagreed about this, but it is the integration
Yes.
of opposites. In my opinion, the yin and the yang need to coexist. And what that symbol represents is the totality that is you, the totality that is the universe. You are the universe, and therefore you are inseparable from the darkness, because the darkness cannot be cast out of the universe. The universe contains that darkness.
I agree.
We can cultivate our immediate environment to suit what we like, what our preferences are. But the goal is not to destroy the darkness, it's to integrate it. And we can't integrate it while we fear it. And because we equate the darkness with fear, when I'm having my visions of demons, what I've learned is, having gone through varying degrees of that my whole life, the point at which that flipped around was when I could, like you said, you turned around to that thing that was chasing you and said, what are you going to do? That was quite confrontational. It worked. My confrontation was turning around and going, it's okay. I understand you. I love you. And it transforms. It goes back to the alchemy thing. It transforms from lead into gold, from shadow into light, from evil into good, but not really, because that polarity is perhaps something else, and that's probably the subject of an entire podcast in and of itself. But
what does it transform into if you challenge the darkness? What does it transform into when you're facing the darkness? If is it just an illusion, or is it fear as fear?
Fear is contained. Go on.
I struggle with we are evil. There is darkness in the world.
No. Okay, hold on, because we're disagreeing about semantics again. It's just how it's framed. When I say we are evil, I don't mean we in totality are evil. We are good also. We are both. We have to be both.
The yin and yang.
We are the yin yang. Yeah.
Or yes.
We are masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
You have two hemispheres of the brain. You have two temples. You are logical and creative.
Yes. You
are dark and you are light. We are it all. We've spoken before about the idea that we are a fragment of God, perhaps, or I don't know how one would want to phrase it. There are lots of different ways.
We're extensions of God.
And what is God? Well, God is everything. And therefore, held within that is all of that darkness. Obviously, I'm not saying that that's where the story ends, and then we're just going to sit around in that darkness forever. But it's that recognition and integration that allows us just to come to a peace, a sustained peace, as opposed to, well, I've got it now, and then 5 minutes later I'm triggered and off I go again into feeling frightened about something. This process of inner work, shadow work, is identifying shadows not to get rid of them, but to allow them to integrate them into our existence.
Can you give an example of how you've integrated a shadow or darkness into your existence?
I would do it metaphorically in the way that it's come through as visions, because putting it into words is quite hard, I find.
Okay.
So with regards to moments of realizing that I'm in a state of contraction or fear, which, say I'm in a social environment and that mode comes in, where before I would then drop out of the conversation, go silent, feel like I need to run away from the interaction, or worse still, have levels of self-doubt that might impact on how I feel with regards to my safety, I can notice that now and go, I know where that's coming from. I know where that is held within the totality of my being, which is to say, it's only an aspect. It's not the totality. Where before it would come in and I would experience it as the totality.
Okay. And it would consume you.
And it would consume me. Whereas now I can hold it in tension with what I perceive as the totality, which is the darkness and the light. I am both. And neither define me. Do you know the Vesica principle? The Vesica Piscis.
Can you remind me?
Sacred geometry is something that we can talk about in the fullness of time. But if you take two circles and overlap them slightly, the space between the two overlapping circles, that's the Vesica Piscis. And that's the origin of the fish symbol that we see in Christianity. And there's a load of really interesting rabbit holes we can go down with that about Christianity emerging in the dawn of the age of Pisces and Pisces being fish and all of that. But that, again, is for another time, really. The point is that it's these two opposing forces, factors, and in this instance we can say the darkness and the light, and they overlap, and it's in that overlap that we realize that these two apparently opposing forces have a lot in common. And the Buddhists teach, using this principle, that it is the middle way. It's this middle way that is the good. It's not good versus bad. The good is in the middle of two extremes. So the extremes of light and darkness. The light isn't good in and of itself. The good lies in this Vesica Piscis in the middle. That's the way. It's the middle way.
So where's the bad?
In the extremes of the two opposites. So
the bad is in the light. The bad is in the darkness.
In the extremes. So,
yes.
So Christ was crucified on a cross between two thieves, right? An esoteric reading of that is the thief on the right represented materialism and extreme materialism at the expense of all spirituality. And then on the other side was the thief that represented the extremes of spirituality to the point of disregarding the material world. So it's kind of like an untethered, like going into the crown chakra and untethering and going all the way up there, forgetting to remain rooted, and vice versa. So it's these extremes, and that what Christ represented in the middle of these two thieves was the Vesica Piscis. That's the teachings. So if one can come to peace with the idea that there is darkness within, the worst atrocities that have taken place in the world have been at the hands of people who think they're good. They think they're doing the right thing. Hitler wasn't like, oh, I'm an evil guy and I'm nefariously going to be doing nefarious things. No, he thought he was doing the right thing according to his belief system. So what even is right and wrong? Good and bad? It's a really, really complicated thing, and it's also really simple.
So I may change my mind about this at a later point, but...
Me too.
Yes, and that's the whole point, right? We are on a journey of discovery. But I feel that we are extensions of God. I feel that we are here to experience. So in that sense, there is no good and bad. It is just experience. But I feel that if we are therefore extensions of God, yes, there is darkness. But I feel like on this plane of existence here on this planet, we are experiencing the yin-yang. We are experiencing the darkness and the light. But when we are finished here, I'm not so sure that we go back to the source, or which is darkness. I think there are planes of existence.
I'm not saying source is darkness. I'm saying source contains darkness. It's everything.
So going back to source, you're going to experience darkness.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. How I see it is we go to source and we experience the love, which is the highest vibration. The highest vibration that there is love. And I feel that we are pure light here to experience what light is, which is experiencing the darkness and the light, the duality of everything. And other planes, other realms of existence, yeah, we're probably experiencing that too, but I struggle to see how we are darkness and light when we are finished here on this planet and we're going back to source. Like, I struggle with that because we're learning it here. We don't need to learn it anywhere else. This is the experience that we're having here. Yin and Yang probably doesn't operate somewhere else in the universe, the multiverse. And yeah, it always comes down to we know nothing. The multiverse is so vast that we can't even comprehend it. So we know nothing. These are just what we are trying to put together with all the information we have on this planet. So we don't actually know anything. But let's talk about what we do know, right? Which is what we're doing. I think in day-to-day life, integrate the darkness, integrate the fear, which can definitely help us. Because to me, fear is illusion. We just create the fear. Mainstream media generates fear. We look at fear and we choose to take that on. We choose to let that affect us. And it is a choice. We have choices and we can make the choice to not let that affect us and live a different way. But I would not say that we are evil. But I know where you're going.
I'm not saying we are evil and that's the end of that. I'm saying we are evil. We are also good. We have the potentiality for both within us. Ooh. There is a Hitler within every one of us. It's only a choice away. You're choosing not to embody that. And that's great. I'm also choosing not to embody that. So we're making choices on this level, on this human level, but we are experiencing, we experience time linearly, and really there is only now for any given moment, and in any given moment we are choosing how we show up. But we are just an aspect. We are just one dimension of an infinite number of dimensions. But we're still part of that whole. So we are the potential of evil, but you and I are choosing not to be that, to very consciously go in, examine for us subjectively, individually, and go, what does evil look like through our own lens, and go, well, I don't want to be that.
Yeah, I think we have a choice to do that. And when we're a kid and we're looking at the beautiful things, we're looking at the things that marvel us, we're looking at all the beauty that we see in the world, we don't naturally, as we're babies, look at the evil, the horribleness, the manipulation we can do to one another. I think we naturally want to come from a good place.
Sorry.
That also says a lot.
Children are horrible. Children stamp on toads. Children pull spiders' legs off. So
let me give you babies. I'm talking about babies. Yeah.
Well, that's
babies,
only because they can't do anything. They're lying around.
You haven't been around babies like I've been around babies. We're not innately evil. It's not within us to. I think. Yeah, we pull legs off spiders and wings off flies, and yeah, we do that without having an understanding of the consequences. And it is experimentation as well, which I guess is naturally when we are young. But I don't feel like the intent is not there when we're pulling the legs off the spiders when we're 6, 7 years. We're not intending to cause physical harm. We're not actually intending for that. We're just experimenting.
Yeah, so exactly. So you've just revealed that evil is a thing that we apply to it. Like, I would say that is evil, but the child isn't an evil person doing that.
It's not conscious.
It's not conscious.
It's not conscious. Right.
Sure. And there is a shift between the unconscious evil act and then the conscious evil act. But that child is performing an evil act. So it is within them.
I guess it's the intention then. If we intend to cause harm, because evil is all the darkness, or the ultimate darkness, where we're wanting to cause the worst to each other, and that's with the intention. Like Hitler, his intention was to cause the worst in others.
No. His intention.
Okay, his intention. Okay, hang on, man. So his intention was to give him everything that he wanted and how he wanted to see the world as a reflection of who he was, right? And yeah, I guess that was an intention of evil, right? People would see that as evil.
But if you were brought up in exactly the same circumstance and environment as Hitler, would you have done what he did?
If he was fully human, which I'm sure he was, not empathy deleted, I'd probably be doing the exact same thing as he was because of his upbringing and his environment, and he's got to power. Probably. I don't know. But because he was just human like you and I. We are him. We are all one. We're just different expressions of the same consciousness.
And that is true of all the evil people. So where does that evil lie? It's part of the whole. I don't fight this anymore. We probably agree fundamentally.
I think we're saying the same thing. Again.
We're saying, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that we've been through this a few times now, and we do get to a point where we're like, oh yeah, we actually do agree. Yeah. What we're disagreeing on is the definition of the terms.
It's the definitions and the language. Yeah.
So maybe this in and of itself is a useful tool to highlight all of the disagreements that take place out in the world. What are you really disagreeing about?
Exactly. It's the bloody same thing.
You're on the same side. You're on the same side, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this conversation that I've been putting my foot down and saying it is this and evil is this and we are. I don't know. I have no fucking clue.
Me neither.
Everything that I've
Me neither.
Everything that I've said was true for me in that moment. Right now, I don't know. And that's part of the inner work, is realizing that maybe I'm stuck down a rabbit hole with this disagreement, and okay, just got to remind myself I don't know anything. Who was arguing with you there, Jay? It was Joe. So it was ego. It was that mode, which is fine. That all serves a purpose, and we're at a level now where we can be like, okay, ego's great. It's a useful tool, but it's the helmsman, not the skipper. I have a friend who's given me that metaphor recently, which I really appreciate. Ego is the helmsman, not the skipper. You need to listen to that higher self, which is the skipper, telling us where to go, because the helmsman in and of themselves, they've got no clue. They're just turning the wheel. So with disagreements like this, what are we really disagreeing over? Nothing of any importance.
No. We still want good for humankind. We still want positive change. We still want great outcomes where we can lead to, evolution, where we don't bicker and fight over the same thing. We want the same. Yeah, I think we need more conversations on the maybe not on the podcast necessarily, but the integrating the darkness. Yeah, I want to have more conversations with you on that.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I'm not saying I know, but it's just turned a dial within me, and I'm just like,
Yeah, the way that you react to it makes me think that you're running away from something.
Oh.
You're like, no, I'm not dark. I'm not dark. There is no darkness. I'm not evil.
Okay.
What are you running away from there?
It's absolutely not running away. I feel that, I don't know. Is it darkness of the mind? I think you're probably talking about darkness of the mind, to be honest. I don't think you're talking about darkness of the soul.
Nice, okay.
It's the poisoning of the mind.
Expand on that, the distinction between the darkness of the mind and the darkness of the soul.
Well, we sabotage ourselves, and a friend of mine was talking about the architects that we have up there in the mind that are no good for us, and one of them is the saboteur.
The archetypes.
And the archetypes, yeah, something of the archetypes. You must know him.
Okay, well, yeah, Young, C.G. Young did work on the archetypes, and various other people have expanded that work. Caroline Myss is one.
Yes.
But go on. The Saboteur is huge, yeah.
It's just huge. And it's, I think another one is like the inner child, the darkness of what happens to us as a kid, and the trauma. I think we all have trauma, and we all work through it.
100%.
And we don't always know that we have trauma, and
Yep.
it's not until finding it out through the inner work, the introspection, where we come to a point where we're like, there it is, and then work on it. But the darkness, I feel like it might just be darkness of the mind. And so the darkness of, I can't see there's any darkness of the soul. Yeah, I've got darkness of the mind. Yeah, of course, plenty, and still have. But my soul as having darkness, it doesn't feel right to say that. It doesn't feel like I have darkness in my essence. So this is one thing that I'm going to be asking my monk friend tomorrow, whether we are light here experiencing the darkness to then know the light, or whether our essence is darkness and light because it is all one and we're from God and God has that too. So it's not like the answers actually matter. We don't need to actually know, but it's a good talking point. It's not they're going to change everything, but I guess we're on the path of truth, right? We want to know truth. We want to know everything and anything we can get our hands on to maybe help us become more enlightened. I would love to, at some point, know as much as I would like to know and teach others what I know, because I feel like it's absolute truth. I feel like truth can only...
Are you going to start a religion?
I am. Yep. No, I'm kidding. I just feel like, we get information from the outside, we bring it in. Does it resonate with truth? I'm taking that one. This is truth, kind of thing. We all speak our own truth, and sometimes our truths align with one another, right? I think you and we get a lot of truths that align with one another.
Absolutely. And it seems the world is waking up to that. More and more people are aligning themselves with these concepts, that there is a fundamental unity between us all, and it's predicated on the idea of love. We don't need to worry about whether our definition of good and evil is the same or not, because there is a much broader foundation on which we are building this time round, and it's love. Oh, what is love? The cynics might say, but it's a really big, broad thing, and it's all fuzzy and lovely, and we don't really need to worry too much about how to define it. Obviously, it could be problematic in so much as if one starts to intellectualize over it so that you could exploit it for your own gain. But then that will be pretty quickly identified and selected out of this new system, because it's not about the individual anymore. It's not about leaders. It's not about the gain for the self. It's not about profiting for myself. It's about how am I in service to others. It's not about me anymore, like it was and has been for thousands of years. It's about other people.
I don't know about that. I think it's about other people, but I feel like we need to give ourselves some love, right? We need to love ourselves before we can love others.
Yes, but that love comes from that. So if you were to build a triangle, you've got a base and you've got two sides. If you try and prop up one side on its own, it just falls over. You try and prop up the other side on its own, it just falls over. So that's service to self and service to other. Those are the two sides of that pyramidal shape. You've got two cards, say, and building a house of cards, which obviously has connotations, but let's forget that for now. Just come back to the triangle. Sorry, I'm overcomplicating this. What I'm trying to say is that it's both. It's not one or the other, it's both. And that kind of loops us back round to, back round to the light and the dark, right? In this realm of duality, it is the marriage of the opposites, the integration of the opposites.
Yeah, I agree. That's interesting. So, duality, do you automatically put that as a triangle? So, service to self, others, good, evil, just so that I understand.
Yeah, it's obviously the triangle implies three, right? So in the sacred geometry, you've got point, line, plane, 3D object. So yeah, the triangle implies three, obviously three sides. So how does duality fit within that? Well, it's both. So in the same way that you've got sound and silence as opposites, together it's sound silence. We're realizing, it's not just male and female, it's male female. It's not just hot and cold, it's hot cold. There is this third thing that gives rise to the possibility of a spectrum of concepts such as hot and cold. So there is something that unifies it. And is this the eye at the top of the pyramid? That Illuminati symbol? Maybe. Still learning all of this.
It's funny because I was at a family event yesterday and talking to people I haven't spoken to before, and it was really interesting because the conversations did go to the Illuminati. They did go to the powers that were, and I never had these kinds of conversations with people, 10 plus years ago, and it's really interesting that people are at this point where we're talking about such things and talking about the corruption that there is within areas of the world. I probably won't go right into it right now, but the flow of conversations do go there quite easily. People aren't hesitant about going there anymore, and perhaps we can talk about this more, about the consciousness rising, right? The consciousness is rising to the point where we are at this point where we can decide with the information that we've got what serves us and what serves others. But I was really taken back by it. And it was good. It was a really good feeling that people were talking about this. And I'm really looking forward to where this is building up to, because this seems to be a build. This seems to be building to a point of no return, perhaps, where we will be in a position where we say no to something or yes to something, like a new way of living. Maybe that's too deep.
Nothing's ever too deep. Yeah, there's definitely a rising. Consciousness is rising. There is a surge, a tidal surge of minds coming together and going, oh, there is another way. We've been hoodwinked for so long, and the corruption is intolerable. The people at the top do not have our interests at heart. Like, their mask has fallen away. They've been pretending successfully for centuries, thousands of years, don't know how long time. But in the last few years, it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. And they're getting careless. They know they're at the end of their reign. And that's fine. Let them eat cake,
They've been eating a lot of cake and not sharing any with us. And people that get desperate do sometimes take desperate measures. But perhaps we're already in the desperate stage anyway.
Oh, we are. Yeah, look at what's happening in Europe. All of the revolution is now. It's happening right now.
Yes, yeah.
And we just have to remember to stay positive and stay focused on all of the high vibrational things, the things that make us feel good and others feel good. Help people if someone's struggling, if they've been glued to the news and are in this state of, oh, everything's coming to an end, it's really bad, oh my gosh, woe is me. Hold their hand and say it's okay. These are growing pains. We're evolving as a species. We have to go through hard times. It's growing pains. We're going to be okay. We already are okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine what's being birthed right now. Just focus on what's being birthed. Don't focus on all of the things being lost. Yes, it's tragic. Absolutely tragic, and my heart goes out to the people who are in those war-torn nations. But whose war is being fought there? Whose war? I was speaking to someone earlier this week, and he's from an older generation. You and I, Jay, we're in our 30s, and he was 2 generations above. And he was talking about back in his day, there was a lot of graffiti that he would see around, and there was this tagline that was used a lot. It said, if there was a war and no one went to it, would there be a war? So it's up to us. We define our reality. I'm not showing up to any war. For me, there is no war.
No.
There are people out there in conflict with one another over religious ideology, ostensibly, over economic ideology. It's not my war. If no one shows up to the war, there's no war. But it's not up to me to decide for other people whether they turn up to that war or not. If they want to, that's them. Go ahead. What about when it comes to my doorstep? What then? Even then, I'm not in opposition to anyone. I was in Greece a couple of weeks ago, and when I arrived in Athens, there was protests on the street about the change in rules about paying for university fees. And I approached this policeman dressed in military gear and asked him what was going on. And there was a human behind that mask, physical mask there, and there was concern and fear in his eyes. He didn't know what he was fighting for, what he was fighting against. He was just there as an order follower. And alas, that's where the majority of these conflicts are taking place. It's just order followers and people pushing back against the orders.
It's probably just war of the mind that we have. And wars these days are actually pressing buttons, They're airstrikes, they're torpedo launches, and we disconnect from it. We disconnect from the impact that we have because we're not even there anymore. We're not even on the battlefield. We're behind a screen. And look what came out with, was it WikiLeaks? It's just terrible things. We're just blowing people up and making huge mistakes. And it's just not the way forward. That's not coming from a place of love, is it? Why can't we just approach everything? Is this coming from a place of love? Or is it coming from fear? Are we fearful of this person or this event? And then we attach to the thought and we take the action, and it's never usually good. It's always about a bad outcome. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And it just seems to perpetuate. The leaders that get in power, things just stay the same or perpetuates.
They have stayed the same, but that's changing. We are in the process of changing.
We are in the process of changing, and I'm very optimistic for the future. I am. But to highlight it, I think has value. Change has already happened for the better. I think we just need to realise it.
So we've just gone off on a nice roaming exploration of the kinds of things we talk about as an introduction to how we're going to frame these conversations in the future. It's not just going to be you and I. We want to talk to other people and get their perspectives on all of these things.
We plan on getting, like you say, as many views and opinions as possible on how we can make the world a better place, what problems we see in the world, and whether inner work and outer work resonates with people that we talk to. We've already got things lined up, and we're just going to take it forward and see how it evolves. And we can't go wrong, because there is no right or wrong. It's just experience. So this is just a cool journey, and we're looking forward to the outcome, because we're manifesting positive outcomes, right?
For sure. And we hope anyone listening will join us on that journey as we try to figure out all of the complicated, wonderful, sometimes difficult, sometimes beautiful, but always fascinating and interesting journey that is life. Thank you to anyone who's been listening, and we'll see you next time.